All right, let's dive into one of the most fascinating linguistic puzzles in all of science fiction. It's a language so bizarre, so completely alien, that it literally broke the universal translator. Of course, I'm talking about the Tamarian language from Star Trek: The Next Generation. You hear that phrase, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. When the Tamarian captain said this to Captain Picard, it was just complete nonsense to the Enterprise crew. The translator knew what the words were, sure, but the meaning? Totally lost. It was a communication brick wall. And that really gets to the heart of the mystery, doesn't it? This is the central question we're tackling today. The Tamarian language isn't about vocabulary and grammar the way we think about them. Nope. It's built entirely on metaphor and allegory. So, could a language like that, could it actually truly work? Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by breaking down that communication wall. Then we'll look at why this language just seems impossible on the surface. After that, we'll see how it might be closer to our own speech than we think. We'll even check out some modern-day parallels. And finally, we'll deliver our verdict on whether this mythic language could ever be real. So, first things first. Let's talk about that communication wall. I mean, how did the universal translator, this incredible piece of tech that can handle just about anything thrown at it, fail so spectacularly with the Tamarians? Well, the whole problem boils down to this concept that linguists call a non-compositional language. For us, a sentence like "the dog chased the ball" gets its meaning by adding up the words dog, chased, and ball. Simple enough. But for a Tamarian, a whole phrase like Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra is one single, indivisible unit of meaning. The individual words, they don't matter at all. So you see, the translator was actually doing its job perfectly. It translated the words, but it was like quoting a line from a movie to someone who's never seen it. You've given them the words, but they're missing the entire cultural key to unlock the meaning. And that's what created this semantic wall, a barrier made not of grammar, but of shared stories and context. And this is where things get really tricky, because all of this leads to two huge paradoxes that honestly make a language like Tamarian seem completely and utterly impossible. First up, you've got what's known as the bootstrapping problem. It is the classic chicken and egg situation. If the only way to tell a story is by using other stories, well, how do you tell the first story? How does a Tamarian kid ever learn what Darmok and Jalad means if there's no simpler, more literal language to explain it to them in the first place? And the second one is the technical specificity problem. I mean, really, how does an advanced starship-building society handle complex engineering using only stories? You can't just tell your chief engineer, "Shaka when the walls fell," and expect them to hand you a 3/4-inch socket wrench. Or could you? But here's the thing. This is the big twist. What if I told you that you, right now, already think and speak this way every single day? It turns out the key to cracking the Tamarian language isn't in some distant galaxy. It's hidden right here, inside our own minds. The big breakthrough comes from something called conceptual metaphor theory, which was developed by these two brilliant linguists, George Lakoff and Mark Johnson. And their argument was pretty radical. They said our entire way of thinking, especially about abstract ideas, is built on a foundation of metaphors. Just think about how we talk about an argument. We use the language of battle. We say things like, "he attacked my points," or "I defended my position," or "she shot down my argument." We don't just talk about arguing like it's a war. Deep down, we actually structure our entire understanding of it as a fight to be won or lost. And we do the exact same thing with time. We treat this completely abstract concept like it's a physical resource, like money. We spend it, we save it, we waste it, we even borrow it. And this isn't just us being poetic, it is the fundamental way our culture thinks about the very nature of time. So here's the absolute crucial point. The Tamarian language isn't some totally alien way of communicating. It's really just an extreme version of what we already do. They've just taken this natural human tendency to think and speak in metaphors and turned the dial all the way up to 11, making it their entire language. Now, what's really cool is that we can actually find real-world systems right here on Earth that work on these exact same principles. This stuff isn't just science fiction, it's happening all around us. Let's do a quick comparison. For us, our metaphors for big ideas are usually based on physical things we all experience. Failure feels like falling down. Understanding feels like light or being able to see. The Tamarians? They just use a different source. They're shared cultural stories. For them, Shaka when the walls fell is the concept of failure. Sokoth, his eyes uncovered, is the moment of understanding. Same process, different ingredients.
And check this out. There's an amazing historical precedent for this, Chinese Chengyu. These are 4-character idioms that come from ancient stories and classic literature. To really get what sailing against the current means, you have to know the story behind it. It's a whole system of communication that relies on a massive, shared cultural database. Sound familiar? It's just like Tamarian.
And if you want an example from right now, today, just look at internet memes. A meme is a perfect modern Tamarian phrase. Think about it. It's non-compositional, it relies completely on shared cultural context, and it can send a really complex idea or emotion in an instant. Sending someone the Picard facepalm meme isn't just sending a picture. It's a whole concept. It's our generation's shaka when the walls fell. Okay, so now that we have these real-world parallels, let's circle all the way back and try to solve those 2 big paradoxes we talked about earlier. How do kids learn this language, and how do they deal with anything technical? Here's how it could plausibly work. First, the learning problem. Children might learn the myths not by having them explained, but by seeing them, by enactment. Think plays, rituals, or, holographic simulations. Second, for all the technical stuff, they probably use a totally separate auxiliary language. Maybe it's based on math or music, something purely literal for blueprints and equations. And third, what about new ideas? Well, they create new myths. The story of Picard and Dothan at El Adral became a new phrase in their language, a new story for a new concept. And this totally reframes how we should think about their language. It isn't just poetry, it's more like a computational language. You can think of every phrase as a pre-compiled subroutine running on a shared cultural operating system. When a Tamarian says Darmok and Jalad, they aren't just telling a story, they are running a script for how to cooperate through shared struggle. It's incredibly efficient, as long as everyone has the same software. And this finally shows us why the universal translator failed. It was trying to translate words when it needed to translate an entire culture. To really understand the Tamarians, you don't just need a dictionary, you need access to their entire database of myths, and the complex logic that connects each story to a real-world situation. And so, that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to think about. The Tamarians force us to see the stories that are hidden in our own way of speaking. Phrases like argument is war or time is money, these aren't just ways to talk. They are the myths we live by, the invisible frameworks that shape our reality. So the question is, what are the myths that your language is built on? What stories are you telling without even realizing it?